Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right in because today we are taking a fascinating, deep dive into the profound teachings and writings of Life Chanyan guide Xu Feng. Specifically, we're going to unpack an incredible text titled Out of the Smog of Human Nature. This is a sweeping, intensely philosophical look at the human condition. The text basically maps out how our everyday desires create this incredibly dense psychological haze, and more importantly, how we can actually navigate our way out of it. It's absolutely packed with poetic imagery and some pretty stark warnings, so let's just get right into it.
Right off the bat, this text totally redefines a word we use all the time. I mean, when you and I hear the word smog, we instantly picture city air pollution, right? Well, Xu Feng uses it as this powerful core metaphor for the human mind. The smog of human nature is defined here as a state where our psychology becomes deviant, the truth gets entirely twisted, and good and evil are essentially disguised. According to the text, this mental smog creates a completely desolate world where we just lose our direction. It's a heavy, blinding fog where the false and ugly run rampant, and it really threatens to pull humanity into what the author calls a sad ending.
So, how exactly did we end up in this mess? Let's look at part 1, Origins of the Pollution.
The crucial thing here is understanding how this massive shift happened. The text describes human nature in its original state as perfectly pure, bright, and spotless. It's literally compared to a flawless mirror. But then we hit the polluted state, where that mirror is slowly crept over by dust. And why does that happen? Well, Xu Feng partially points out that humans have very basic, totally understandable needs, right? We need to survive, we want respect, we have to care for our families. But the text argues that these completely natural needs slowly morph into endless, grueling struggles. The relentless pursuit of money, power, fame, and status just completely takes over. Our inner peace gets replaced by sediments of anxiety, anger, and fear. And boom, that's what creates the smog.
Which brings us directly into the consequences. Here is part 2, Chaos in the Smog. Let's examine the psychological toll this takes on us today. Just picture the sheer exhaustion of modern life, which the source material breaks down into a rapid 3-step cycle. First off, step 1, we are involuntarily submerged in a massive sea of information every single day. We literally can't escape it. Step 2, all this noise makes us rush around like ants on a hot pan. We're totally driven by impetuousness rather than actual purpose. And then step 3, extreme emotional volatility. Xu Feng describes this state where people swing wildly back and forth. One minute, you are ecstatic, feeling like the absolute master of the universe, and the very next, you fall into this bottomless abyss of depression and resentment. It's a relentless, exhausting pendulum swing, isn't it? And here is where it gets really tricky. There's this absolutely fascinating psychological illusion highlighted in the text. The irony is that the more severe the smog, the more people have the feeling of, everyone is sleeping, but I am awake. Have you ever felt that way? Or maybe met someone who acts exactly like that? The text argues that our own perceived cleverness actually traps us deeper in the mud. People feel so uniquely enlightened, chuckling to themselves, completely blind to the massive waves of consequence heading their way. They become victims of their own ingenuity, ultimately abandoned by the times because their vision was entirely obscured by the smog. Okay, so knowing all this, how on earth do we escape? Let's turn to part 3, Lighting the Sacred Lamp. Here we have Xu Feng's highly actionable countermeasures for surviving the smog. First up, you've got to light the sacred lamp in your heart, basically maintain your fundamental human baseline. Second, guard your own field. Don't follow the wave. This means actively resisting the urge to fish in troubled waters or get totally swept up by whatever societal trend is currently exploding. Third, reduce desire and restrain impulse. And finally, the text suggests seeking timeless wisdom by communicating with spiritual figures like Jesus, Shakyamuni, and Lao Tzu. The big takeaway here, there are no shortcuts. The more anxious you are, the more chaotic your life gets. The guide really stresses that you just have to stay completely calm and let this metaphorical sandstorm pass. But why is acting this way so absolutely crucial? Well, that leads us to part 4, the law of karma.
Now, karma is presented here not just as some vague, abstract concept. It is the iron law of the universe. The core idea is simple, but man is it profound. What you give and what you receive is always equal. The text asserts that we really shouldn't just focus on a single moment, a single event, or even a single lifetime. The universe enforces strict, inescapable balance. It's like a cosmic scale that never, ever breaks.
And this builds into a pretty stark warning, actually. Look at this contrast. On one hand, you might be experiencing elation today. Maybe everything right now is going exactly your way. You've got the money, the power, the success. the whole shebang. But unchecked desires and secret faults carry a really heavy price, eventually leading to wretched circumstances tomorrow. The text warns that if you just ruthlessly pursue your own gain right now, you risk being shackled in the next life. It underscores this iron law of cosmic retribution. Nobody escapes the balancing scales of the universe. Nobody.
Let's slow down for just a second. Here is part 5, philosophical punctuation, looking at the grand historical perspective.
Just really listen to this striking imagery from the source. Broken walls where foxes sleep, deserted platforms where rabbits walk on, all were places of singing and dancing in previous days. Think about that for a moment. Fallen empires, massive abandoned battlefields, ancient stages of incredible glory. And now, they're just overgrown ruins, lost in the mist. Xu Feng uses this hauntingly beautiful poetry to emphasize the incredibly fleeting, deeply insignificant nature of our worldly struggles. Everything we fight so hard for, it literally all returns to dust.
Which leads directly to these rapid-fire philosophical questions. Who won? Who lost? Who was complacent? Who was frustrated? When you look back at the grand sweeping arc of history, at those ruined walls and empty platforms, do the anxieties and bitter rivalries of those ancient people matter to us now? Not at all. So, more importantly, do your present anxieties truly hold the ultimate value you assign to them? It's a really profound prompt that makes you completely reconsider where you're putting all your mental energy. So, what's the alternative? Let's shift gears to part 6, living for the future. Xu Feng's vision for humanity promises that if we just wait for the smog to clear and the Earth's purity to be restored, a suffocatingly beautiful era is approaching, where the whole world is as one family and everywhere is a poetic Xanadu. This is an incredibly uplifting, utopian vision of the future, a time when the worthy actually utilize their talents, the weather is favorable, and happy laughter is quite literally everywhere. It's presented as this ultimate reward for those who manage to keep their inner sky totally clear during the darkest parts of the smog. So, we arrive at the ultimate choice. As you navigate the endless barrage of information and the totally exhausting daily struggles of modern society, ask yourself, are you going to stay trapped in the blinding, chaotic smog of the present, constantly struggling for these fleeting desires? Or will you light that sacred lamp, calm your impulses, and actually begin living for the suffocatingly beautiful era of the future? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Take some time today to reflect on your own mirror, and I'll see you next time.